Up until this point, we have been using C++ functions from Blueprint. Now we want to go the other way. We want to be able to call some sort of implementation that exists in Blueprint from C++. As I have alluded to earlier in this course, that is indeed possible as long as the definition is included in C++. So C++ knows what it's calling to, and essentially we have a virtual method. So how is this going to work? Well, we are going to use a new keyword called a Blueprint Implementable event. And let's have a look at the scenario that we're wanting to enact. So we've got our grabber here, and at the end of grab, we have this notify quest actors function. And this notify quest actors, I actually do not want to move this into C++ at any stage at all, because it's kind of a little bit hacky, and I probably don't want to cement it in there. I want to leave the designers open to doing this in a different way if they want to. So this wants to stay in Blueprint, but how do we get the execution to come here from C++? Because eventually I want to move grab and release into C++. How can I call to a Blueprint function in that way? One of the ways of doing that is using the Blueprint Implementable event. And the way this works is you go over to your header file in grabber.h, and you can create a new U function. Always has to be U function if we're going to be calling it or having anything to do with Blueprint. And instead of using Blueprint callable, which, as you understand, goes the other way, we want Blueprint Implementable event. And this basically means that we aren't going to have any function body here in C++. That's all going to go on the Blueprint side, but we do have a signature here in C++, which allows us to call it if we want to. Now, in this case, our notify quest actor has got an argument, which is the actor that we need to notify, but it does not have a return value. So it's going to be a void notify quest actor. And it's going to take the A actor star as its argument, and this is going to be just actor, and we don't need to create a body. In fact, we should not create a body for this implementable event because Blueprint is going to essentially create a null implementation for us. Notice we also don't have to mark this function as virtual, which might seem a little odd for those C++ nuts among you, because that's essentially what we're doing is we're kind of using it like a virtual function. But don't worry, all the preprocessor stuff is handling that automatically for us and creating an implementation for us to call in there. So let's go ahead and compile this now. And if we go over into Unreal, we'll see that because we've used the same name, we're now getting an error when it comes to this quest actor here. But what we should also see is if we go over to our event graph and right-click in the event graph, we should be able to type in notify quest actor. So that's interesting. What we've created here isn't so much a function in Blueprint terminology as it is an event in the event graph. So now what we can do is this notify quest actor that's giving us errors, we can probably just rename that, or so you'd hope, but because it's overriding something that already exists, we can't now rename it, which is a little bit frustrating. We had to do the rename before we compiled our code. If you go ahead and compile the Blueprint, you can actually see why it's giving us an error. You can see that it's actually saying that the access specifier is not compatible with the parent function, and we can see that because the access specifier is set to private here. So maybe if we set that to protected, things would work. Let's try compiling now. It's saying that it's already in use, so I could go over to the event graph and I could remove this event and compile now. But nope, finally it does go back down to this one error saying that the function name cannot be used. So basically we should have renamed it before, but what we can do is we can move the functionality, just cut it out and put it in the event graph instead. So that's what I'm going to do. Create a new notify quest actor in here, paste in my Blueprint graph and hook it up to that event and hook in the actor as well that we're passing along here. Now, if we go ahead and delete the function from Blueprint, we should be able to see that in the grab function, the notify quest actor is still set up, calling essentially that function from C++. If we compile now, everything should be working the same. The only difference now is that the definition of notify quest actor is in C++. The implementation is still in Blueprint. Now it has moved over to the event graph, and it's in the event graph because it is a Blueprint implementable event with no return type. Please note that in certain circumstances, which we'll go over, an event will not be created and instead a function will be created here. And there are a few different situations in which this happens, but we aren't going to go into the details right here. Generally speaking, we do want Blueprint implementable events to be functions in the event graph.